What's up, everyone? Andre here, along with Tom Arnold, to discuss our hands-on time, or body-on time, with Ring Fit Adventure. We've had it in for about a week or so, and Tom actually came down and hung out with me for a few days to test it out. So I thought we'd give you our updated impressions on the game now that we've actually been able to test it pretty thoroughly in a home environment. So as part of this, as part of our impressions, we also have a ton of questions from you guys, and we're going to go over as many as we can within hopefully a reasonable amount of time. Alright, before we get to the Q&A though, let's just get our quick impressions. Tom, this is your first time going hands-on with Ring Fit Adventure. What did you think of it overall?
Overall, the main thing I was worried about is this game exercise? Or is it going to be like Wii Fit when you try maybe the easy ones and you're left not sweating afterwards? But I can confirm it did feel like a workout. The first day I was thinking a bit cocky and thinking, should I go on a run before this? But no, Ring Fit Adventure was definitely enough for me to feel like I exercised for the day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This is definitely a full body workout. Like, it gets me sweating pretty quick, whereas I don't recall that happening much with Wii Fit. There were a couple exercises in there that would get you, work you out or get you moving. The problem is that game was so segmented, so isolated based on the activity that it didn't always work out that way. Whereas in Ring Fit Adventure, yeah, I'm right there with you. It feels like a proper workout. It feels like actual exercise. So, yeah. So did you actually have fun when you were playing it?
Yeah, that was one thing too. The presentation, I'd say, is like pretty outstanding for an exercise product. I mean, it's right up there with any of Nintendo's efforts. I feel like I was impressed, and it keeps me going too. Well, as a regular workout, potentially you might lose interest at times, but this with the level setup makes me want to keep going and go a bit further than what I normally would have.
Did Drago push you to push yourself harder?
Or did I push Drago?
Oh, maybe. You might have. Is there anything that surprised you about the game, going hands-on with it, that the trailers didn't clue you into, or editing by preview didn't clue you into?
Well, I was surprised by how long some of the regular battles were. I mean, you would think some of these little cute little guys with little like cute chubby cheeks and stuff, would they be just a pushover you maybe do a couple sit-ups with, and that's it. But no, they last about 3 to 5 minutes for their battles.
Oh, I mean, I think at least. I mean, I think some of them might be longer than that. So, depending on how many enemies you are or you have, but I think there can be up to 5 enemies. So you're right; they definitely can be lengthy, and those battles I think can get longer, depending on like your difficulty setting, because you may have to do more reps, for instance, in order to pull off any particular move.
Yeah, that's right. When I increased the difficulty just a little bit, it added 2 more reps to what I was doing already. And that kind of left me thinking, was this the right move? Because I was already doing 30 reps on some of them. And those battles, especially if you choose an attack that's not right for the enemy, they last a long time. You might have to do 2 or 3 different exercises for one guy.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. And that's especially the case for Drago, who we've actually posted a whole video with him. Those battles are intense. If you want to know more about Drago, or Drago, however you say it, go check out the video we posted on that with our quick impressions of fighting that guy, who is just a beast to deal with. So, all right, Tom, any other impressions, or should we move on to the Q&A?
I guess we can move on to the Q&A, because there's a ton to go over there.
There are, and we'll be covering more impressions as part of this. Also, just real quick, if you're unfamiliar with Ring Fit Adventure for some reason, make sure to check out our previous preview, which goes into more in-depth about how the game works overall. Otherwise, we're kind of assuming you already know what you're getting yourself into here, so we're just going to dive in deep on these questions here. And first up, we have one from Jonathan Stead, who asks, how much free space do you need? So, Tom, you were playing while you were here. What would you estimate?
I would estimate 1 yoga mat.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. For the most part, most of the exercises are standing in place, but there are a few that require you to kind of stretch your body, and you'll definitely want like the length of a yoga mat for those. So yeah, good. I think that's a good estimate. Moving on, Caesar asks, do I need to have an unsettling smile while I play the game, or is that optional? I'm guessing he's referring to the reveal trailer.
That is entirely up to you and what helps your workout.
Indeed, whatever works best for you. Tyler Quill asks, is there online multiplayer? I've been hoping to compete in online events and challenges. So unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, there is no form of online multiplayer at all. It's entirely single-player based. The only slight thing that may count is when you're doing the individual mini games. They are ranked according based on your friend list, so you can see how you're competing against your friends or how your high score compares against your friends. But that's about it. There's nothing else you can do there. So, Brandon Miracle asks, does the game calibrate your intensity for you, or is that something you need to tune yourself? Tom?
That is something that is kind of up to you because there's 4 different levels of difficulty to choose from at the beginning. Oh, and hi, Brandon. And afterwards, at the end of each level, you can choose to kind of ramp it up to be a bit more difficult. So you're not locked into just 4 settings. It can also gradually change after that.
Yep, that's exactly right, and it seems to work pretty well so far in our early impressions. Paul Borasa asks, is the music good? What do you think, Tom?
I would say this music is great in the fact that it also kind of seamlessly... It's a little bit dynamic too, based off how well you're doing, and it really encourages you and keep going, and it has a really positive vibe to it.
It does, yeah. It has the music is both catchy and it complements the action. I found like We Fit often put me to sleep with some of its tunes. With Ring Fit, it definitely feels more energetic. It definitely like puts you in the right mindset. So far at least. Like the Drago battles, I think, get pretty intense sounding, which is kind of funny too at the same time. Yeah, and also in particular, shout out to the title screen. I just love that music. I don't know why. There's something about it that's like really catchy and puts me right in the right mindset for getting going on a Ring Fit adventure. All right. Ozone asks, do you have to enter any of your personal details, such as weight, height, age, and if so, are they used to provide info on calories and other metrics? So yeah, when you start up the game, it asks you, I believe, your gender, which you don't have to answer, by the way, your age, which you do have to answer, and I believe your height as well, which I can't remember if that's required or not. And I believe you can change, you can like adjust your information at any time if you if you mistyped it or whatever, or if your weight changes, for instance. So yeah, and I think that's about it. Do you have anything to add?
And you don't have to add in your weight at the beginning if you don't want to.
That's right. Yeah, the game won't judge you, unlike We Fit, which is screaming pain every time you stepped on it. All right. Hallie Balloween Arland asks, did you have any recommendation for what kind of surface it should be played on? I have hardwood floors, so wondering if I should get a rug. That's right. P.S. My name is not pronounceable right now, and just say Al. So full disclosure, we already tried recording this once. I made the same mistake already. Al, put that at the start next time, so I'll read it out loud. All right. So Tom, you already kind of addressed this because you brought up the whole yoga mat thing. There's a reason we mentioned the yoga mat because I have hardwood floors, and there are a couple exercises at least that the game tells you probably shouldn't do this on a hardwood floor. And I tried doing it, and it is a little bit uncomfortable. So I definitely recommend if you don't already have a carpeted surface in your house. Or have if you don't, then either get a rug or like a yoga mat or something. But that definitely helps. I mean, Tom, you tried both as well. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I would say it's manageable just for a little bit on hardwood floor, but long term, that's going to be tough on your joints or maybe your tailbone if you're sitting down. So definitely get a yoga mat, and probably it won't get sweat in your carpet too.
Yeah, that's also a perk. I didn't even think about that aspect, man. The Hypist asks, what's the story? So Tom, you experienced the intro a little bit more recently than I did. Give us a lowdown on the story.
Alright, starting off, you got a ring that's talking to you in a forest that you just stumble on, and it's like, hey, kind of pull me so I'm free, and it's like, alright, I will. But then a horrible, horrible dragon is unleashed on the world as he tricked you. But then it turns out the ring also is a different entity that talks to you, and it's like, hey, let's go stop that horrible entity, which is Drago. So, boom, there you go. You have to go through the world and stop Drago from emitting this negative energy on the land, which I guess is an energy of wanting to work out too much.
Right. It's good to work out, but apparently not too much, so know your limits, I guess. And the story, I think there's some more questions later on, so maybe I won't go too into it. But the story does, they do add to it, too, as they go through it. Like, it's a simple story, but they do some things so far in my limited experience, the week or so I've had with the game that I've seen. That builds upon it, which is kind of neat. Oh, in fact, I think, wasn't there one other aspect, Tom, to it, or?
Well, I was going to say, like, Drago is a more complex character than just a buff guy that works out all the time. You kind of find he's a bit flawed, so I'm interested to see what happens as it goes on.
Yep, same here. Alright, well, speaking of story, Nathan Smith asks, how repetitive is a story mode? What do you think so far, Tom?
So far, you just get a different world, and I believe at the time I learned that I had to unlock different features of the ring as I went on, like Drago kind of took them away. So each world had something new and was also offering a bit of new gameplay at the same time. But it's not like Kingdom Hearts, let's say, in terms of story. I mean, it's more of a simple one.
Yeah. The story is simple. But what do you think about the actual gameplay as well for the story mode?
So the gameplay itself, that was it's slow and steady because this game you're gonna be playing for months. Like at first, I was wishing there'd be another feature for Drago, so you're not just doing the ab block on him. And sure enough, you encountered it in the third world already. So we'll find out how many more of those features are added, or if it's going to be just a few at the beginning and tail off.
Yeah, every day so far, I've been experiencing some kind of new activity or new exercise. Something new is being introduced. And I'm wondering how long the game can keep that up for. Hopefully until the end, because that'd be really neat. Because yeah, they do keep mixing it up. Of course, on the whole, there are a lot of general levels and exercises are similar, but they do enough to kind of keep it interesting so far. Whether or not they'll hold, don't know for sure yet. But yeah, so there is an inherent repetition because it's exercise and it's all about those reps, right? But they do enough to keep it interesting at this point. Matt George asks, how much space we need to play the game, so we kind of addressed that already. But he also adds, are there any ways of determining what sort of moves you'll be doing so you can limit it to ones requiring less room if need be? I only have a small room to play in. So, first off, as we already said, you don't need a ton of room to play the game. As long as you stretch your body out, well, even just sitting down probably, that should be enough. But even if not, you are actually able to choose which moves you bring into battle or into combat with you. So if you don't have enough room for some of those moves, you can just drop it out of your inventory and then put in something else you do have room for. So that should, I think that should mostly clear it, but I don't think, I haven't encountered any situation beyond that where it needed more room beyond the built-in attacks or the battle attacks, exercise attacks, fitness attacks, there we go. Marx asks, is there a way to play it on the Switch Lite with separate Joy-Cons? So I haven't tried it on the Switch Lite proper, but I've tried it on basically a Switch Lite being a handheld Switch, or a Switch in handheld form, and it worked totally fine. There was, at least in my testing so far, I believe the Nintendo website had a mistake saying you can't play Wii Ring Fit Adventure on a handheld Switch, and as far as I can tell, that is completely not the case. It worked just fine in my experience. Leanne Leanne.x asks, can you play multitask mode away from the Switch? I live really close to a park and I jog a couple miles every morning. I'm wondering if I can grab the ring for extra XP on the go. Thank you in advance, Andre. So yeah, the whole point of a multitask mode is that you not only can play away from the Switch, you have to play it away from the Switch. Your Switch has to be in sleep mode or to be far enough away that it doesn't know the difference. And yeah, it allows you to press in on the ring wherever you may be, like at a supermarket or running in the park, for instance, and it'll count those reps up to 500, and you can then donate those reps to whatever account you want on Ring Fit Adventure, to yours or a friend's, as long as it's on your Switch, and it'll give you experience points for it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's a neat way of getting in some workout, without having to actively be playing Ring Fit Adventure. Next asks, actually a bunch of questions, so I'll throw this to you, Tom. One, okay. How hard can you crank up the resistance?
Well, the resistance is basically, you can't crank it up. It's all built into the ring already. But at the beginning of the game, it sort of detects how strong you are by how much you can squeeze the ring. And I think using that, it detects if you're doing like a good press or you're kind of being a bit light and need to do more effort.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it may be like, I was able to get 100% on the ring when I squeezed it on the way. I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. But do a few of those, and you really start feeling it. So, so the game does measure like to what degree it should that you need to squeeze it in yourself. So based on that, it kind of does add resistance, even if the ring itself, even the properties of the ring itself aren't really changing. Second question is one we already answered. It's the third question. Is there a character creator, or are you a generic male or female? Tom?
You are a slightly generic male or female, where you can change, I believe, your skin color and eye color, but there's not really like a vast array of options to change the size or anything like that. Yeah,
exactly. They are kind of generic, but I think they are still identifiable and look kind of cool as a result, or hot, I should say, because they got the hot hair thing going on, the fire hair going on.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 4. Final question from him or from them is the story and setting any good? So we kind of already touched about the story, but what do you think about the setting, Tom? Like the environments we've been going through and kind of just the world in general.
The world looks pretty good. I was worried it's just going to be all these interior environments on different giant conveyor belts, but the outside world actually looks pretty beautiful, pretty good graphics.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of Breath of the Wild, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're using the same engine here. Like you can see trees like rustling in the wind, you can see the grass swaying. It all looks really nice. It's a very pleasant world to be in. And it's just fun to kind of like run through it. So, yeah. Moving on, we have Mosky Screw who asks, is there enough variety in the gameplay / levels that losing interest / boredom won't be a problem / issue? Wow, there are a lot of slashes in there.
Wow.
Basically, did it keep your interest so far, Tom?
Yes, it did. At some point, I would say the hardest part's just some battles are a bit longer, but when you're running around the world and stuff, that's definitely very interesting and adds in enough variety to sort of change your mindset before going to battles, to keep it interesting, encouraging you to continue.
Yeah, I agree with that so far. Like, at this point, it's keeping my interest. The question is, will that hold up? And that leads me to my next question from Fernando, who asks, how big is the story, and does it have any replayability? So, obviously, we're still early on. We can't answer this ourselves. I believe Nintendo has said themselves that the story is, if you play for an hour a day, it'll take you 3 to 4 months to get through, I believe, somewhere in that range. So that's pretty long. So it's going to be a while before you see the end of the story. As for replayability, I mean, that's hard to say at this point. Like, I've already replayed a couple of stages just for fun. So, because you're working out, there's an inherent replayability, I suppose. Whether it's enough, whether it'll hold up over time, I'm not quite sure yet. So, we'll get back to you. Stay tuned for a review, which I'll have more on that, at least up to the point we've been able to play the game by that point. Let's see. Will Marsh asks, were you able to try in tabletop mode? My living room doesn't have much space, but I consider elsewhere in my home if it's visible enough on a small screen. So I already mentioned it does work, but I'm not entirely sure how viable it is yet. I haven't fully tested it. But I will be going on a trip really soon. I'm going to be bringing Ring Fit with me, so I'll let you know. I'll get back to you, but I will be playing on the Switch and handheld form while doing that, while on the trip. Zubs asks, do you feel it helps tone, or is it like Wii Fit where it ultimately does more for cardio? So Tom, you're a big cardio guy. What's your take on this?
I would say it probably does 2/3 to even maybe 75% toning and the rest cardio. Like, I love running and biking, so to me, the cardio is easier than any of the arm exercises. So I really felt like this is more of a overall sort of muscle toning, body workout type game, but it does do enough cardio to get you sweating.
Yeah, I think it has a pretty good mixture in there, but I would agree it's probably more focused on toning. And the game, even after every workout, it'll pop up like a quick Q&A thing, just giving you a little more information about just various exercises or things about the game. And one of the questions was that I saw, is this game going to give me give me huge muscles? I'm afraid of getting roided out. It didn't say roided out. That would be very un-Nintendo-like. But the game's like, no, it probably won't, give you huge muscles, but it should tone you up. And based on how my arms have felt after some of those ring exercises, I believe it. I've woken up I'm still sore actually from working out a couple days ago. And granted, it's partially because I have no upper body strength. But that's a good thing. It kind of does show it's even it is working me out in my upper body, which is good, which is something I've kind of neglected a bit up until recently, a little bit before Ring Fit. So
I would like to just point out that it didn't make me so sore the next day that I couldn't lift my arms and didn't want to play it though.
That's a very good thing. Let's see. Cade asks, how effective is it for actual exercise, and how much space do you recommend for it? So we've answered the space thing a bunch of times now. Tom, for actual exercise, how did you feel afterward?
For actual exercise, let's say comparing it to an elliptical machine, if I do 30 minutes elliptical machine, I'm probably going to have a towel that is completely soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
But in this game, moderately soaked in sweat. I mean, I think it had a difference of maybe this game was doing around 180 calories to that being 300. But at the same time, this game actually is probably better because it does core exercises and overall body fitness. Maybe it's good for just overall health and not just focusing on one group.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I definitely do get sweaty from this, but I don't get as sweaty as I do when I go to the gym and I run on the treadmill for 20 minutes or use the elliptical. However, as you were kind of saying there, I think I am probably getting a more rounded workout with Ring Fit, it's targeting more muscle groups than I am myself. And there's, and that is valuable in and of itself. So yeah, the intensity may not be quite as high as doing a full workout at a gym, but I think it does a good job, and it does a pretty good job getting close to that, while also targeting muscle groups you may be ignoring or may not be aware of even. I've definitely learned the muscles I didn't even know were there playing Ring Fit. So, Train number 4 asks, does it make exercising fun? Is it better than Wii Fit? What do you think, Tom?
Yes, it does make exercising fun, and I would say it does a better job in Wii Fit in, I'm gonna say forcing you, but it doesn't really force you because it was fun. Forcing you to try different activities, while in Wii Fit, maybe I would just stick to a few of them. So it definitely helps encourage more variety.
Yeah, to the point that even locks out a move you used recently in battle, so you have to do something else. Yeah, so I agree with you. Like, in Wii Fit, it's kind of easy to fall into the things you were good at or weren't too strenuous, whereas it's a lot harder to do in Ring Fit Adventure, which is a good thing, even if it kind of sucks in the moment, because it's causing me physical exertion or physical making me sweat. So, Afro Crow asks, is there a difference between attacks of the same type? Aside from the exercise that you do? I ask because I notice some enemies are weak to certain colors, but many exercises share the same color. So I'll take this one real quick. Yeah, basically, as you already said, you do unlock an ability a couple days into the game. I think, what was it, day 2 or 3 for you, Tom?
Day 3 you unlock it.
Okay, day 3, where or world 3 probably, where you do gain the ability for your color-coded attacks to deal more damage to enemies of the same color. However, even within those color groups, different attacks can have different properties, whether it's having a greater attack strength or being able to attack more enemies. Because while a lot of attacks just target a single enemy, there are others that can target more, like between 3 and 5 enemies. And those will obviously deal less damage to each enemy because you're attacking more enemies overall. Yeah, and of course there's also the fact that each exercise is also different, so you may want to choose each one, depending on what you want to target, which muscle you want to work next. Next up, we have a question from Halloween, aka the Dragon Feeny, I believe that's how you say it, who's a YouTuber, so hi, and who asks, will it give me that summer bod I skipped over this year? What do you think, Tom?
If you keep up with it, I think it'll help you, but it's not necessarily the end-all solution. It just depends how much you're going to play it, and also at the same time, what you're going to do for your diet.
Yeah, exactly. If you play Ring Fit Adventure for 12 hours a day, you could probably get there. But if you play it a normal amount, yeah, it's probably going to take you. You may want to augment that with a few other activities and or a diet. Hayden asks, is there a Wii unlockable is there a Wii Fit unlockable outfit? So, unfortunately, as far as we can tell, rather, at this point, we haven't seen anything. There's been absolutely no sign of any Wii Fit references at all. That's not to say there isn't one there. The game is a long game, so maybe it's something that comes later, but I do think that would be pretty cool, because you can unlock outfits in this game, or purchase them, but we haven't seen anything of that nature yet. Let's see. Master of Halloween, aka Master of Hyrule, another YouTuber, hey, asks, can I play sitting down with not much movement? What do you think, Tom?
I think that defeats the purpose of the game. Like, you can try, maybe the squats, you can sit up from the couch and sit back down again, but that's going to be tough in some areas, like the running in the levels.
Yeah, exactly. You could definitely, you could just sit down for the squats if you want to, instead of, sit down on a couch and stand back up. I tried that today and that worked. So yeah, there are ways to cheat it. You can also just shake the leg strap accessory if you want. But, again, by doing this, you're cheating yourself. You're only cheating yourself at that point, and you're defeating the entire point of the game, which isn't so much to reach the end. This is the game that's really not about the end, it's about the journey. So, and it's about, working out to get there. So yeah, I'm sure there are ways to cheat it. The ring itself is probably the hardest thing to kind of, work around, because you actually have to press on it. I guess you could sit on it or something.
You can create a vice with a machine attached to it that might squeeze it for you.
Exactly. Does it make a robot to play Ring Fit Adventure for you? I guess there are robots in the game, so that would be kind of fitting. Nay asks, is a ring actually robust enough to withstand repeated use? So Tom, I think basically the first thing you tried to do when you came here, you basically tried to break that ring. So
I tried.
What do you think?
I tried to squish it so both sides are touching each other, and I could not do that. It starts sort of shifting around, but that thing is super durable. I think it's going to last the test of time.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo even told us ourselves, like, they've had people try to break it and they couldn't. Now, obviously, I don't think they would tell us if they were able to break it, but the fact that apparently they weren't able to, I think, speaks pretty highly of its robustness. I tried, like, I've tried pressing in on it. I'm not the strongest person, obviously, but it seems like that thing will take a beating. So I wouldn't be too concerned at this point, but, of course, then again, who expected the Joy-Cons to drift too? But I don't think we have to worry about that here. Balrog Game Room, another YouTuber, hey, asks, do you see this game as a replacement or supplement to a daily workout? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but Tom, like, what do you think? I know, like, for you are pretty hardcore about fitness, where you're running, like, you run, what, how many kilometers a day? I was gonna say miles, but you're Canadian, so kilometers. How many kilometers do you run a day usually? It's, like, absurd.
Well, I don't necessarily run every day, but usually around 10 kilometers or so. But sometimes, up to half marathon distance, depending on my training for a marathon at the time, which can increase. So half marathon, that's over 21. But it's going to depend on your goals, right? You could probably use Ring Fit Adventure as something to replace workouts and just do and like be pretty good in shape. But if you want to do like long distance biking or running, or if you want to get like be able to lift super heavy weights, you're gonna have to add in either you're gonna do the running or biking or do the weightlifting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think for people who are already working out extensively, this definitely wouldn't serve as a replacement. It might be able to supplement it, like if you want to do even more workout and have a little bit more fun with it. For people, I think this is probably better for those who aren't doing a ton of activity right now, or maybe want to work out a little bit more than they're currently able to, because it is really cool that you're able to just work out in your house without having to go anywhere. You don't have to you don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to drive there. You don't have to get you probably do want to get suited up still, or wear some kind of workout attire, but you don't have to go like all out as you would with a gym probably. So yeah, I don't know if it'll act as a replacement. I think it can definitely supplement it, and at the very least, it could be a great starting point too for people who aren't working out at all right now. But yeah, again, this is still early on. I'll have more in the review probably, and of course, this is gonna be a longer product to evaluate. So I'm sure we'll have more updates on it as we continue to work with it and see how that see whether we want to stick with it or not over time. Let's see. We have a question here from TSS Boo, who asks, does the game recognize your movements well? What do you think, Tom? Did you find it was accurate for you?
I thought it was super accurate. The only little nitpick I had is in some exercise like chair, it wants to only detect the range of motion you're supposed to, so it wouldn't kind of show if I was going further down, other than having the hair maybe not be lit on fire to show a good match of movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it seemed like it's pretty responsive. The ring knows exactly how much you're pressing it in, and the leg strap does a good job of it knowing where your legs are at least, which is useful for certain exercises. But there are things about, that the game just, like, there are parts of your body the game just has no idea what they're doing. Like, it doesn't really know any idea, like, how your back, you're keeping it straight, or, how your posture is. So those are things that you'll have to keep track of yourself. But in terms of the things the game itself is measuring, it seemed to be pretty accurate. To the point where it was forcing me to go lower in my squats, which sucked because my thighs were catching fire, much as my trainer's hair was in the game. So yeah, I find overall it's pretty accurate, or accurate enough for the purposes that it's working with. Let's see. David asks, using Wii Sports as a comparison, how much exercise does it actually get you to do? So Wii Sports, as I remember, overall is pretty chill. Like, I guess if you really got into tennis, you might feel, you might get your heart rate up a little bit. I did find, I think the closest comparison in Wii Sports was boxing, because if you got into boxing, that actually was a pretty good workout. Because you're throwing punches, you're weaving left and right, you're crouching basically. So that was probably the closest I would say to Ring Fit. I don't think it's not quite at the same level because there wasn't any resistance there and you weren't also running in place, but that was probably the closest. So that might give you some idea what to expect. Just imagine Wii Boxing Plus, I would say. Do you agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, I would say so. Boxing is one of the toughest forms of exercise to do, so that makes sense. It's probably, I would say Ring Fit Adventure is probably a bit tougher, but yeah, boxing will give you an idea of what it's like.
Handy Dandy Mandy 25 asks, Are the RPG type battles any good, or do they take too long? I'm asking since from what we saw in the trailers, it takes a lot of time to defeat the enemies, even when using the strong attacks, or were they just gameplay of later in the story? So yeah, they're asking in an overall sense, what's your take on how long the battles are?
For me right now, I'd say they maybe are 15% too long, or somewhere around there, but there's more variety being added in, so I can see that, and that's good. So when I play the game more, there's going to be more to look forward to, and I think they just didn't want to overwhelm me as a player right off the bat.
Exactly. Pokey Gusted asks, do you expect one can still get a solid workout with the game set in the quieter mode, which is the mode where you don't have to run in place, so you're not like annoying the neighbors below you? So I actually tested this just specifically for this question a few moments ago. I tested it in a level that I just ran through, and by ran I mean doing basically squats or not full squats, maybe quarter squats, and it actually worked pretty well. And the cool thing about this is, so it like with running, it adjusts, it calibrates to your speed, to the speed of the squats you want to do. So if you want to do, so it knows how fast you need to do, how quickly you need to squat in order to run. But what's really neat about this is it's kind of up to you how much of a squat you want to do. So if you don't want, so if because squats can get tiring real fast. So if you want to do just short squats, you can, and it's not that much of a workout. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you definitely can. I reached a staircase in one of the levels, which did force me to do deep squats to go up it, and that was when I would really start feeling it. So I think you definitely can get a workout with using the quieter mode. At the level I was working, it wasn't as much of a workout as running in place. But again, most of the workout I think comes typically from the various fitness exercises in battle. So yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, and the quiet mode seems to work pretty well in my quick testing of it. Next up, Nintendo Spooks asks, how much did you sweat? So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I would say I sweated. I usually sweat a moderate amount with this. Like it's hard to describe this without it just sounding super gross. But yeah, like you do feel it. But I wasn't like pouring sweat as I can like at the gym. But what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, a moderate amount where there's beads of sweat, but not drenched in a downpour.
Exactly. George Brownless asks, do you feel like it's a good successor for Wii Fit? And are there are the add-ons easy to carry around so you can take them elsewhere? Yeah, what do you think, Tom? Do you think it's a good successor to Wii Fit?
I think it's a great successor, and it more gamifies exercise. As for hauling around the ring itself, as long as you have a decent-sized bag, because it doesn't really fold into place, but it would be far easier than bringing around a Wii Fit balance board.
Yeah, no kidding. It's lighter, it compresses if you have to, and the fact that it's just a ring, it's hollow, means you can store stuff inside it. So I plan on bringing it with me on my trip, as I said, and I don't see it being too much of an issue, because it is the ring itself is sizable, but again, it's hollow and it's flexible. So yeah, I don't see it's not anywhere close to like a balance board in terms of it being an issue, and it's light too. A balance board is heavy and required batteries. So. Let's see. We have a question from Samuel who asks, and maybe we answered this already. What is the range of the adjustable difficulty settings, and what does it change? So, Tom, do you have any answer for this?
Well, that was adjustable difficulties in game. Basically, you start off with the 4 settings, and then you can choose to make it more difficult after each level, and maybe it'll bump. Let's say I was at 26, and I said let's make it more difficult. It would bump up to 28. Which increased the reps by 2. And at that point, after trying it, you can choose to continue or go back kind of at any time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually checked out, there's actually an option too where you can manually set the exact level, and it let me push it up to 30, which I wonder if you can go beyond that. But I know you are doing 32 reps at some point, Tom, so I wonder that it pushed the difficulty up beyond 30, or if that was something else that was just related to those exercises.
I think some of the exercises have a different amount of reps than others, but they kind of probably all scale accordingly.
Right, yep. Let's see. Stylish asks, does the game make you feel like a Ring Fit adventure? Tom?
Sure does. I mean, it was super fun and energetic. I love the sort of ring genie guy talking to me. It's definitely like a quest you're going on. It's not just standing in a gym looking in a mirror.
Exactly. Yep, totally agreed. The RPG Boo asks, how comfortable is it to use a ring con while playing the game? And it's pretty comfortable. Like, the ring con has like soft grips on it that make it, pretty easy and not uncomfortable to hold on to. The only uncomfortable part comes in actually squeezing the ring, which takes effort, which is a good thing, which is what you want. By the way, real quick, the little padded hand rests are removable, so you can wash them if your hands get sweaty or whatnot. So, or if you want to do trade off with a bunch of people and you don't want their sweat all over you. Nintendo DSA asks, how long is a leg strap? So I actually measured it just before this discussion, and I believe it was, I didn't have a tape measure, so these are rough estimates, but I used the length of a game box, and I believe, where did I post this? I thought I posted in the chat
I think
here.
it was 18 inches and maybe 24 inches stretch.
Okay, good, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it's 18 inches unstretched, not counting the holder itself, which adds another inch or two. Or since you will probably have to stretch it to some degree to get it around your leg, stretching it a fair amount, but not all the way, was about 24 inches. And putting it around my own leg, it still had a lot of room left. So I wouldn't worry too much about it not being able to fit around your leg. I feel like it will be able to fit most people. So, let's see. Oh, here's a question from Samuel. What was your favorite and least favorite part about the game, Tom?
Oh man, least favorite. That it was a lot of fun. Like, my least favorite was when the exercise was getting a bit tough, or made the battles slightly long at first without unlocking too many of the extra exercises. Mm-hmm. But my favorite part has got to be just the fact that it is exercise and sort of how hilarious and awesome Drago is as a character at times.
So great. Alright, Chris asks, what is the structure for play sessions? Does Nintendo insist you only play for a half an hour workout, and does that clash with the RPG nature of the adventure? So this is actually a really good question. It's something we actually kind of talked about this a little bit, Tom, ourselves, and it's something I'm evaluating for the review. So there really isn't a structure. Like, the structure is you're on the world map, you can choose a level, it tells you how long the level will take you roughly, and that's about it. When you're done with the level, you can either continue on yourself or you can choose to quit, obviously. Some levels are pretty short, so I wouldn't want to quit after one, that wouldn't be much of a workout. But maybe one issue is that the game will sometimes just tell you, hey, you may want to take a break. And it may be a good idea, but for me, like, I want to push myself more. Like, I want more than 10 minutes of exercise. I want to go for 30 minutes to an hour. And the game doesn't necessarily do a great job so far of, like, giving you... Like, it does track your total play time, so you can go based off of that. But I would say I wish the game were a little bit more structured, or, like, maybe had an option where it's like, hey, I want to work out for this amount of time. What do I need to do to get there? And, like, the game maybe cuts you off at that point, or gives you recommendations to what to do afterward. But what's your take on this, Tom?
Yeah, my take is sometimes it asks you a bit too early if you want to stop, but I guess it's a nice offer. But yeah, being able to structure also, if maybe today I want to do more running in levels, or focus more on those shoulder arm exercises, that would be a nice twist to it. But at the same time, maybe the game kind of does that automatically as you're going on. It's tough to tell, only playing it a couple times so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's something we'll stay up to date on. Like, what I've been doing recently is I've been basically doing a whole world as my workout, but the worlds have been getting longer, so I don't know if that will be able to keep working for me. But we'll see. And that might be a good gauge. Like, hey, just do a whole world, and there you go. But I don't know how many worlds there are, so yeah. But again, we'll have more information hopefully by the time of the review. Vash asks, are there any co-op functions? Like, do I need 2 rings to do something with a friend, or is it just pass and play? It is purely pass and play. There is no form of multiplayer at all beyond, like, taking turns in mini games to see who's going for the highest score. But that's really your own challenge. Nothing the game itself is really doing. Diago asks, probably a weird question, but can you make some adaptations if you have a disability? Also, if you physically can't complete an exercise, do you get penalized, or can you opt out of some exercises? So that's a great question. I actually checked this right before the review, and on the option screen there are several settings. Actually, I've got a picture here. I can't show in the video, but I've got it right here I can look at. They call them exercise modifications, and they provide 4 categories in which you can use button presses instead. So if you come across an exercise in the world or in the game that you can't do, you can I just press a button apparently to do it instead. So these 4 categories are shoulder stresses, shoulder stressors, back stressors, stomach compressions, and knee stressors. And so I forget what activity I encountered in the game. I think it was one of the moves in game, and I was able to just press a button to do it instead. Also, I tried turning on the knee assistance there, and what that ended up doing is I had the character run for me in place. So in the world, I didn't have to do any movement at all. The character moved. So I wasn't even aware of this until now. So it seems like the game is pretty adaptable to disabilities or any physical ailments you may have. And beyond that too, you're able to choose which moves you bring with you into battle. So if any particular move is giving you trouble, you can just get rid of it and ignore it and focus on the moveset that does work for you. Do you have anything to add, Tom, to that, or?
Well, I was going to say too, the ring itself, it detects how much you can press it in at first, so then it'll kind of consider that as a maximum, and maybe allow different ranges of motion for what you can do in game. So it's like maybe you can only press it a bit in because of how you are, and that way you don't have to be like struggling against it trying to make it touch each side together like what I might be dumb and try to do.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, I've got a question here from Bone Rosenbones, who asks, how much space do you need if you have a low ceiling without prohibiting you from playing? And 2, if any game were to get Ring-Con support in the same way that Mario Kart got Labo support, what game would you like to see? Alright, so for number 1, you've answered that one a ton, but we didn't talk about the head space or the ceiling space. That could be an issue, because you do have to put, there are exercises that do require you to put the ring above your head. Now, technically, you could work, basically once you get past the initial check, you could cheat it and put your arms down and the game wouldn't know. I wouldn't recommend that, obviously. But for those exercises, yeah, a low ceiling could be an issue. Also, watch out for sprinklers in your ceiling. You wouldn't want to break those. Yeah, but again, you can unequip moves that, they don't work in your space. So you should be able to work around that issue, too. As for games we want to see with Ring-Con support, I do think the steering wheel could be kind of cool. Might as well. It's basically a steering wheel as is. So that'd be fun to see, like Mario Kart support it. How about you, Tom? Is there any games you think could work well with the Ring-Con accessory?
Well, steering wheel and squeeze to honk in Mario Kart. But,
yes! Oh, actually, I think squeeze and use items would be pretty fun, actually. And then maybe you can squeeze out to honk.
Like shooting turtle shells, or as we see in Mario Kart Tour, the unlimited bullet bills that are coming. But definitely if they could somehow make a punch-out that used it, that'd be great. And I would say, too, the ceiling space, I'm pretty good at managing to hit ceilings, but I don't think there's a lot of jumping involved, and I never hit your ceiling once.
Yep, exactly. Also, I want WarioWare Ring. That'd be fun. I think they can do a lot with it.
That's what I want.
Yep, heck yeah. Dusty asks, you can choose a Ring Fit hero's gender, right? And how do their base designs hold up in your opinion? Also, if you had to choose, what would you prefer for Smash? The Ring Fit hero or the Ring Fit villain?
The villain.
Yes, the villain. I don't know why I didn't think about that before. I love that guy. I want him to Smash. Forget the hero. I want the villain. As for your other question about the base character models, I think they're cool. I think they're fine. I think they work. I think they're actually a little bit cool even. So yeah, but they're nowhere close to the Ring Fit villain. That guy is untoppable. Ghost Bluey asks, do you think the game works more as an RPG or fitness game? Tom?
I would say it works more as a fitness game, but it's got pretty good RPG elements in it, but I wouldn't play this game because I like RPGs.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, the RPG elements are cool, but this is definitely a fitness game first and foremost. The RPG elements are, pretty light, if not surprisingly comprehensive for being a fitness game still. But also, the story isn't like super in-depth either. So yeah, there's a fitness game first with RPG elements to augment that. And speaking of which, a little bit, Bryony asks, will it be able to unlock new outfits and accessories? You sure can. Yeah, you'll. I forget if you find them in the environment. At the very least, you can buy them from a store using cash you pick up in the world, and then you can equip them and wear them, which is pretty neat. And they will affect your stats as well. So again, the game is really surprisingly RPG-like in its nature, which will be interesting to see how people who don't play RPGs at all, deal with. Brian Geek asks, or Geek asks, are you limited to a linear path, or are you able to walk around in any direction? So yeah, for the most part, you are locked to a linear path. You can't really move in any direction. I believe there are points where the path does split, and you can choose to go in whatever direction by pointing that direction. But I haven't encountered those myself yet. Ninty Rules 123 asks, does it use HD Rumble? Yeah, it sure does. Did you feel it pretty well, Tom?
Yeah, I felt it well, especially I believe in the one sort of exercise where you're sitting down and pulling up your legs, and it kind of gives you a good indication of how well you're doing too. It's sort of like additional feedback that might not be noticeable all the time, but it helps.
Yep, exactly. Actually, I was just about to ask the same question. Going through my questions here. I think we're actually kind of running low here, so we've answered a ton of them. Here's one. Koopa Kev asks, does it have enough creative flair for it to feel like an actual new IP, or is it kind of a generic feeling fitness game? What do you think?
I would say it definitely does. I mean, you got your main characters that they look good. They're kind of on the generic side, but like they're actually somewhat stylish. You got the Ring Genie, and you got Drago, and at the same time, there's a whole bunch of different enemies in the game. I mean, they've put quite a bit of effort into these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. No, it's definitely not just a generic fitness game. Like, I can see how you might think that from like a screenshot or two, but no, it definitely has its own unique vibe. The enemies are, as you said, have these cool like models after or neatly modeled after gym equipment, and of course, again, Drago buddy or Drago baby is what I meant to say. That guy, he's awesome. He's great. Like, he really stands out. So, Video Game Hazard says, should I buy the game? It looked intriguing when I saw the first trailer, but I'm not sure I would enjoy it. Stay tuned for our review. I can say at this point, I think we're both enjoying it. But, that's really a question you can only answer for yourself. Do you want to work out more? And do you want to have, fun doing it? So far, the answer to that, the answer to the second question seems to be yes so far. But again, we'll have more in our review. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Florian asks, how many minigames are there compared to the Wii Fit games? And how many training exercises in battle and the standalone exercises? So I'm not sure how many training exercises there are, but I believe there are 10 minigames, which I can't even remember how that compares to Wii Fit. I will say at the least, they definitely give me more of a workout than Wii Fit.
Yeah, they're more of a workout, and the one I tried with sort of whack-a-mole on the inner and outer ring, that was really well done, really well suited to the game, and it felt actually just like a game, but of course while getting actual exercise. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the other ones are offering.
Yep, agreed. Spooky asks, how accessible is it? I might buy it for my parents. That's a good question. Like, I wish my parents were closer so I could have tested it with them. I know my mom's interested in the game. My gut reactions, I feel like it's pretty accessible. But this is from a perspective of one who has played RPGs before. So I wonder if it's possible that might confuse people or might turn off people. But I feel like it's simple enough to probably not be an issue. But what do you think, Tom? Like, could you see your parents possibly playing this, or
maybe my mom? But the thing is, too, in the first two worlds, I didn't have to deal with any type of health management as long as I just did the block as they said. So I think in that aspect, they're going to be able to get into the game and maybe have a chance to figure it out if they have to later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Ali asks, is it hard to concentrate on the TV while you're jogging in place? I feel like I might give me motion sickness. So I can only answer as one who really almost never has motion sickness issues. It hasn't given me any issues or any problems at all. But again, I wouldn't have expected it to. How about you, Tom, though? Like, I know, like, a few VR games that made you a little bit motion sickness. Did you feel any issues at all while running in place?
I felt no issues while running in place. The game is a bit tougher when you're running and having to aim side to side, but that's just sort of from a gameplay aspect, not from a, starting to feel motion sick aspect. So far I think it's okay.
Yep, exactly. Let's see. Yoshi asks, why wasn't it called Switch Fit Adventure? God, do I wish it was, because for whatever reason, I cannot get, actually, I think I might have finally mastered it, but for a while, I could not get Ring Fit Adventure out of my mouth. I kept calling it Switch Fit Adventure or Wii Fit Adventure. Like, Ring Fit Adventure just did not work for me, but I think I finally have it down. But yes, I wish it were Switch Fit Adventure, so. Let's see here. I think we're kind of scratching the bottom of the barrel here. Looking here. Yeah. Tom, do you have anything to say to fill time here while I look for a question?
Oh man, going back to the last one, it could have just been Ring Switch Wii Fit Adventure, and then we'd have all our bases covered.
Yeah, that's true. That'd been nice, huh?
I think one of the questions that we had yesterday was about the price. Like, is that $80 US? Is that worth it? And it's really up to you. If you compare it to something like an exercise machine, like an elliptical trainer, those are in the hundreds of dollars. And this is portable. It won't take up much space in your place. So if you can use this maybe in conjunction with some running and stuff outside, it might be a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think so. Like with the for whatever reason, I didn't see the price question this time. But yeah, when I first saw the product, I thought, that seems a little bit expensive for like what's just a plastic ring. But I didn't realize at the time that the ring had like seemingly some pretty intricate, electronic stuff going on in there. But even beyond that, like the value I've gotten out of the game, or the value it seems I'll get out of the game, assuming I had paid for it, seems like it would justify itself pretty quick. But again, that's not a final verdict. Stay tuned for our review for more. I will say at this point, though, it seems pretty promising. And it is cheaper than say, Wii Fit. And I think already there's probably more value in Ring Fit than Wii Fit had. So, there you go. All right, one final question from Luca asks, what's the sound design like? And does the music help build the world and encourage you to keep going? And what about the sound effects? Tom, what's your take on this?
The sound effects... So, like, the music is dynamic, as I mentioned earlier, but the sound effects do a fantastic job of kind of indicating how well you're doing. And the one I loved the most was when you're doing defense with sort of pressing against your abs, and let's say you're being attacked or punched by Drago, and just the build up of the sound through that entire like 10-second plus section, it's really, I think they really did a really good job with it.
Yeah, the music and sound design really does do a great job providing feedback, like how you can I did it again. I did this in the first one too. I was gonna say how you can hear your hair there. Yeah, what I meant to say is how you can hear your hair catch fire, which indicates you're doing an exercise well. I also love one of my favorite touches about the game, and I think we have a video going up about a cool little secret related to the tile screen about this. But like during certain exercises, like when you're going through, when you have to do like high knee lifts while running through mud or climbing stairs, you can hear the audience like start cheering you on as you do it well. And I love little touches like that, and it really helps you feel good about it. And the music as well also complements the activities. I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. So yeah, the sound design seems to be really good overall. All right, woo! We covered a ton of questions there. Hopefully we answered your questions. If not, post in the comments below if you have any questions left. Don't tell me what they are necessarily, because I probably won't be checking the comments for the questions because it's a pain to do that. But I may request more for a future video on Twitter. So if you want to ask me questions about Ring Fit Adventure, ask me them on Twitter, and I may address them if I didn't address them in this video. Tom, any final thoughts about Ring Fit Adventure before we wrap it up here?
Ring Fit Adventure, I had my doubts going in, but so far after a couple of lengthy play sessions, it's very promising. I'm just looking to see if it can hold that up throughout the entire game. But otherwise, very impressed with what Nintendo has done so far.
Yeah, it's a super neat idea. I love that they're gamifying exercises. I'm not a huge fan of like gamifying things, but I think exercise makes perfect sense. And the way they've done it so far seems to be really smart. No, I was trying to make a pun and it did not work at all. Failed.
The only gotcha is that your muscles might be stiff the next day. Oh.
Yep, nailed it. All right, we're about done here. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, stay tuned for our full review coming up in a couple of weeks, and everything else Nintendo Switch as well. Go watch my ukulele review. I really liked it. Check it out. All right, bye.